In his book, Radical, author and pastor David Platt describes a conversation he had with religious community leaders on a recent trip to Indonesia. Now, these leaders were from different faith backgrounds, and they were having this conversation about how they thought that every religion was fundamentally the same, with just minor differences that separated them. Now, after the conversation, they asked David what he thought about it. And David said, well, it seems like you view life as this mountain, and God, or whatever you call God, is at the top of that mountain, and all of humanity is at the bottom of that mountain. Now, you might take one route, I may take another way, but in the end, we all wind up in the same place. The leader smiled and responded, you understand well. David said, well, what if I told you that the God at the top of the mountain actually came down to meet us where we're at? The leaders paused and then replied, that would be great. David leaned in a little closer and said, let me introduce you to Jesus. You see, worship is the place where God's people and his presence connect. And it can happen in any part of our lives, from Sunday morning to Saturday night. God wants it all. I think of our weekend gatherings when we come together as the church. I think of that as the exclamation point on our lives of worship. Now, I grew up thinking that when you come to church, you need to leave all of your baggage at the door. But as Chris said earlier, God wants us to bring it all to him. He wants us to exchange our mess for his beauty. Jesus always meets us where we're at. In Matthew 11, verse 28, Jesus says, come to me, all who are weary, and find rest. Worship is the place where you can be real with God. It's where all of our masks are stripped away. It's where our hearts are exposed. Worship is where spirit and surrender collide. In worship, the weary are made new. So I just encourage all of us, let's come to Jesus with everything that we are, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we'll find renewal and rest.